Dreams are our ticket out of the everyday world, into one we create. They give meaning to our lives, and sometimes they come true. To the Mi'kmaq, the Dreamcatcher is one symbol of their culture. They believe that only good dreams are allowed to filter through. Bad dreams catch in the net and disappear with the light of day. Dreamcatchers were custom built for youth.
We have the fastest growing demographic of young people in Canada, and they're the Aboriginal people across Canada. In Nova Scotia, we're typical. There's a high degree of people that are sitting there idle, and now we need to engage them, we need to make them productive and contribute to their community.
Lindsay Marshall knows about dreams and youth. He has been a counselor and chief, a sailor and teacher, a poet and politician. Currently, he is Assistant Dean of the Mi'kmaq Institute at University of Cape Breton. It is Lindsay's job to help young Mi'kmaq students reach their dreams through education.
These people that have dreams and follow their dreams, this is hard work. This is a tremendous exercise for them. And to realize your dreams, that's a wonderful, wonderful moment in time for them, but also for us, because we get to see them at their very best.
The four Mi'kmaq you are about to meet, without exception, dared to dream and worked to make those dreams come true. Chad Denny is a professional hockey player with the Atlanta Thrashers organization. Jessie Benjamin is a mother of 3 and a veterinarian. Troy Julian is an RCMP officer. Bridget Stevens is a boxer.
Having people like Chad, Jessie, Bridget, and Troy adds a new dimension to the value of our culture. Now, it lends itself to a true diversity of culture. They are still Mi'kmaq, but they're a boxer. They're still Mi'kmaq, they're RCMP. They're still Mi'kmaq, a vet. They're still Mi'kmaq, a hockey player. They're still Mi'kmaq. They go all over the world as ambassadors of our people. This is what this is about. This is what their pride is. This is where they move from the ground level to the 100th floor. This is where they're at. And you know what? We just got to get on the elevator one floor at a time till we get to our levels.
Late summer, deep in the Cape Breton Highlands, Chad Denny is in his element.
I enjoy moose hunting. I think I was 13 years old when I first shot my first moose, and I've shot a moose about 3 days ago, and I gave it all away. That's how Mi'kmaqs and natives were a couple of 100 years ago. They got a moose, the whole community got a feast out of it.
A long way from Interstate I-85 and Atlanta, Georgia.
Starting appearance from Eskasoli First Nation, Nova Scotia, number 5, Chad Denny.
At age 20, Chad is now a pro hockey player in the Atlanta Thrashers farm system. It's been a very busy season, living out of a suitcase, hotels, buses, and planes. But he is learning his sport. Big D, easy to see how he got that name. At 6 feet 3 inches tall and 210 pounds, Chad Denny has earned that nickname. And that shot, it's now clocking in at over 100 miles per hour and getting more accurate every game. Chad is a perfect example of someone who has followed his dream. It was always about hockey.
He always dreamed of getting drafted to the National Hockey League. I mean, every kid tells you that. I want to play in the NHL. You just agree with them, you know. Chad sacrificed a lot. He sacrificed his teenage life. He moved away when he was 16. He was really, really into hockey growing up. All he ever wanted to do was play hockey.
I knew Chad, he wanted to move on, and I knew he's got a good chance of making it. So we started a gym at the age of 14 years old.
And in the off-season, Chad still works out at his favorite Sydney gym. He presses over 1,000 pounds. The whole family sacrificed. The whole family supported. No matter the weather, Chad's grandfather or grandmother were there for 6 a.m. drives to the arena, money for hockey schools and clinics, and even weekend practices or games out of province.
Well, I used to take the boys. I used to leave after work Friday evening and take them to either St. John, New Brunswick or Ormachdon, New Brunswick for practice for Saturday morning.
As a kid, he beat the back steps to splinters practicing his shot. Other things suffered as targets too.
I had a loader parked here. He used to use the loader as a bucket, loader bucket for as a goal net, and he was practicing there with his shot. And I don't know, I must replace maybe 3 windshields.
In Mi'kmaq culture, it is all about family and support. Chad's proud grandmother, Dorothy Denny.
This picture here is Chad Denny and Sidney Crosby. That was taken in Val-d'Or, June 7, 2003, when they were drafted. This picture was taken in Chapel Island on our St. Anne's mission. And Chad got a call that he was drafted by Atlanta Thrashers.
When he got a word, I didn't expect that day I'll get a chill. I had a chill. It was 85 degrees that day, and I had a chill when he had a call.
Chad has talent. The NHL scouts saw that. And he comes by it honestly. His father, Junior, was an excellent hockey player. Besides ability, this young Mi'kmaq has courage and depth, too. Obsessed by hockey while at the same time a leader in school, garnering top marks.
Yes, this medal here was given to Chad when he graduated from the high school. And it's a Queen Elizabeth Award.
The citation reads, having demonstrated superior academic achievement in grades 10, 11, and 12, and maintained an outstanding record in school and community involvement.
Everybody in Eskasoni in the community is proud of Chad. He made a map of Eskasoni to the kids in Eskasoni. They follow Chad every year, where Chad goes, they follow him.
I get a foot. It's a big one too.
No matter how far he roams, he has always come back to the things he loves.
You see those right on the edge of the field there?
Chad spent his teens in Maine playing for the Lewiston Maniacs, fighting loneliness, and learning English. You see, Chad grew up on Eskasoni First Nation speaking and thinking in Mi'kmaq. Mi'kmaq is his first language. He is grateful to his billet family in Lewiston, but others he had to educate.
I kind of had to educate some of the people in Lewiston. Some people actually came up to me and they thought we still lived in teepees and everything. We don't live in teepees anymore. We've also moved on to the 20th century. We have our houses, we have the vehicles, we have people working hard, people going to school. Times changed.
Chad's love of hockey is tempered by love for his truck and his life here in Atlanta. But don't try to keep him away from his friends in the woods of Cape Breton. Good friend and fellow hunter, Terry Denny.
He's been part of it since he was a youth, There's other things in life than hockey, And this was one of them, He likes the hunting and the fishing when he was growing up.
The tradition, I'd say. Since back then, every year we go moose hunting. And I still do it every year.
6:30 on a warm September morning. The days have been just too hot to see moose. Early morning is the best time. They're more likely to be on the move. Sure enough, a big buck moose. But is he within range? A few meters short this time, the one that got away. But Chad has bagged his share of moose. The ability to bring home a side of moose meat and to distribute it around the community, that's being useful and being a provider again. For some households it is a treat, but for others it is meat for the table. Back in Atlanta, it's all about hockey. It is a warm spring evening, playoff time. Gladiators coach Jeff Pyle.
I've coached Chad for 2 years now, and he is a great kid with a huge heart. I think he's an enormous talent. He's a guy right now that I say he's too happy to be playing hockey. He loves the game. He loves being around the guys. Here we go! Cheese! He started to improve. He ended up being voted the most improved player on our team. And he's taken a huge step from when he first got here to where he is right now. And then he went up to Chicago and did a great job there.
In behind goes Schultz. Denny snuck in. He shoots, he scores! Chad Denny, his first goal as a member of the Wolves, walked into perfect position.
You can tell why he was drafted, why the Thrashers have him under contract. That's obvious when he's out there.
Big kid, physical, he's tough, he's got great vision, he's got a great shot.
In pro hockey, there are few miracles. It's hard work and ability. Endurance and skill are just not enough. You need more. You need to learn to play the position. To become a professional and focus, you need to want it bad. And Chad gets it, that commitment thing.
Everything's like a full-time job now. Like, everything revolves around the hockey now. I put everything aside. Like, I got to make my sacrifices. I got to be committed to the team.
In 3 straight playoff games, the Gladiators roll over the Charlotte Checkers and move on to the next series against Columbia. It's been quite a year. In the NHL farm system, you go where they send you and where you get the most ice time.
I started off in Traverse City, Michigan, and I was shipped to Chicago, the American Hockey League. We're there, played for about 2 months with them. We're in Milwaukee, Ohio, Iowa, San Antonio, Houston, Manitoba, Toronto.
Chad has been all over the U.S. Thrashers training camp, Chicago Wolves of the AHL, and down to Gwinnett, back up again to Chicago, scoring 2 goals and 6 assists in 7 games, and lots of ice time, averaging 20 minutes per game. And then back to Gwinnett of the ECHL for playoffs. But the loss in the finals meant the Gladiators were finished for the season. The Chicago Wolves, on the other hand, were on fire, and Chad was called back up to the AHL. They went all the way, won the 2008 Calder Cup. And who was part of that winning team? Big D, Chad Denny. If the Chad Denny story highlights anything, it is the difficulty faced by young Mi'kmaq who strike out beyond their reserve and family to bridge cultures.
It takes a tremendous amount of mental resolve to be at ease in any situation. Chad Denny's first language is Mi'kmaq, but his other language is hockey. Everybody understands hockey. Everybody understands talent, raw drive, the heart. This guy has a huge heart. And so this is what people understand. So he uses that hockey language to bridge the language of the English, and he still keeps his Mi'kmaq language.
Okay, so I should get a tube and everything for him too. Yeah.
Jessie Benjamin is a bright, young, determined woman, a practicing veterinarian at the Elmsdale Animal Hospital in Halifax County.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
She always knew what she wanted to do.
I wanted to be a vet my whole life, so far back as I can remember. I don't remember wanting to be anything different. I know for sure by 9 years of age that was what I wanted to be. It's helped definitely because I knew exactly what I had to do to get where I am now. I knew that I had to do the volunteer hours, which courses to take in school, you know, what schools I had to go to and everything, so it made the decisions along the way easier, I guess.
Organized, determined, and focused. After 4 years of undergrad at St. Mary's University and 4 years at Atlantic Veterinary College in Charlottetown, Dr. Jessie Benjamin is fulfilling that lifelong dream.
Hi, Reggie. How are we doing? This morning we have an appointment at 1 o'clock with Reggie, a cat that I've seen quite a few times, whose owner is just great and Reggie is great. All right, so tell me how everything's going.
Fine.
Good.
No, he's doing good.
Okay.
Got my neighbor to start with the pills.
After that appointment, we're going to do a surgery. There's, I guess, a dog neuter and dentistry that we'll be doing, and then we should be done for the day. Yeah, he still sounds a little...
It's clear Jessie loves her profession, and she loves pets.
It looks like you've been cleaning there.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay. They've proven that pets basically make us happy. You know, they use them in old folks' homes, and it just brings, you know, joy to the people. They do have a childlike quality to them that, you know, they never get old. You can't help but like them. They're cute, they're funny, they do crazy things, and, you know, maybe drive you crazy sometimes, but they're always there, they're loyal.
But life was far from simple for Dr. Jessie Benjamin. Her Caucasian mom and Mi'kmaq dad separated before Jessie was born. She lived with Mom and summered with Dad. In her teen years, Jessie became isolated, lonely, and stressed.
I don't know exactly what the cause of it was, but I was very unhappy when I was a teenager. Especially at one point in my life, I think everything got too much. I couldn't handle the stress of it, and I didn't deal with it appropriately. And I sort of hit rock bottom at one point, but I think that taught me how to deal with stress, and I don't think I knew how to communicate my frustrations, or I kept it inside and didn't let people know. You know, I didn't take advantage of my friends and family.
Jessie eventually did get help. She credits her mother and some really great friends with guiding her through the rough times, and both of her families for always being there.
I've definitely been through tough times throughout my whole life. I think one thing I learned is to really how to talk to people when you do have problems, and how to use your family, use your friends, use your support system to keep you on your feet, and basically everything passes with time. Juanita, can you look at these too? This one I thought maybe the hair was a little big, but on that one it doesn't.
Through it all, Jessie knew more than anything she wanted to go to vet college and work with animals.
I didn't have a backup plan, so it kind of had to work out.
In 2001, second year of university, a surprise. Along came daughter Kiera.
Things just worked out that way. I wouldn't change it for the world, but I think it really did help me to focus on school. And
then, in 2006, third year of vet college, a son, Jabari.
You didn't have a hat?
Parenthood in the middle of university. That would throw a lot of us for a loop, but not Jessie. She draws strength and purpose from her children.
If I've learned one thing, and my mom always told me the same thing, when you find out you're gonna have a baby, you got 9 months to figure things out. If you wait till everything's ready, then you might be waiting for too long. You know, you always have another project or something else that you want to get done before that perfect time. There's never a perfect time, I don't think. You want to read your book to me, please? Your homework?
Ben went to the window and looked, and he looked.
Yeah. I don't think I would be able to be where I am without them. They're just, they really, I guess, motivate you to keep going and to, you know, do the best, to eat right, to get sleep, to, you know, I always have to have a good 3 meals a day because they are hungry. I can't, you know, I can't neglect them, so I can't neglect myself, and they've really, I think, kept me on track the whole way through. Be gentle. Gentle with the kitty.
You might think Jessie is one of those people who thrives on adversity. She would say no, and credits her mixed-race background. She was brought up off reserve, but both parents made sure she experienced her Mi'kmaq and white heritage and culture.
The very first time I went to Eskazoni was when I was 4, so I don't even, that's basically as far back as I can remember, so I've been going there ever since I was a child. And I mean, I've learned so much going there. I mean, you can't, I definitely grew up in 2 different cultures, and you definitely can't understand a culture totally unless you live it, I guess. And I had the advantage of living both through my summers, spending time in Eskazoni and being home at my mom's the rest of the time.
Constant exposure to 2 different worlds and 2 distinct cultures That has broadened Jessie's understanding and shaped her outlook.
I always had a good time in Eskasoni. I always had more freedom there than at home. I always had lots of people to hang out with. You know, it was perfect for when you're a, you know, adolescent and all you want to do is hang out with your friends. But probably the best times I had was Mission, Chapel Island. That was great. You know, just dirt biking with my brothers. That was fun, and really just hanging out, and I had something different in Eskasoni than at home. I had brothers and sisters who were my age that I could actually hang out with, so that was really nice, versus at home I was the oldest and a little too much older than the other kids, so I always had a good time there.
Are those who live biracial lives burdened and possibly set up for hurt and failure? Again, Jessie found ways to cope.
I've had mean comments from both white people and Aboriginal people because I'm not one or the other. And you know, maybe they're not meaning to hurt, but you know, I can't help who I am, so you know, you do have to, you can't split yourself in half. I definitely think the society we live in, you're almost forced to identify a little more with how people view you than maybe how you feel, but that's just sort of you know, how our culture is, and therefore I'd say any biracial person has to maybe relate a little more to their ethnic side than say their Caucasian side, because that's usually how people view you.
Jessie thinks people need to know more about different cultures.
I guess through education. I mean, we have school systems in effect. We can educate people that way. I think here in Nova Scotia, definitely, you know, we need to be educating people of the history and cultures in Nova Scotia. That's just part of our history. We should know that. And you don't have to know, you know, everything about everybody, but if you keep an open mind, you're never gonna disrespect someone, I guess. There was times when I was proud to be Mi'kmaq. There was times when I tried to hide it. There was times, you know, when I just didn't know what I wanted to be. But I think ever since I hit university and made a lot of different friends of a lot of different cultures, I became much more comfortable with who I was and not, you know, ashamed at all. And I think, you know, I know that I'm both, and that's okay with me.
Reggie the cat survives with Jessie's help. And Marsh, the 4-year-old black lab, he's sore, and life sure has changed, but it will be a healthy and contented one. Just another day at work for Dr. Jessie Benjamin. She's off to daycare and home with 2 kids, 2 cats, and a 5-month-old dog. She thrives on this life. And oh yes, a kitten. If Jessie can be a success, can other Aboriginals? She thinks so.
I think there's just so much potential out there. You know, I think there is people doing new things. There's huge youth population. You know, if even a quarter of those people go out and start great careers, like, it's just gonna. There's no limit really to what can happen. The population is forever growing, so there's a lot of potential, I feel, and a lot of good things will happen, I'm sure.
Oh, some news. Since we visited, Kiera and Jabari have a new baby sister, young Zyla, 8 pounds and 3 ounces. Mother and baby are doing fine. As Aboriginal people and communities build on their successes, they need young Mi'kmaq like Jessie in the professions, bringing their beliefs to the broader society. Reaching any dream is not easy. Lindsay Marshall.
Hard work is key, but hard work is also a mental exercise that we have to do. You know, we have to provide the means for these students or these young people to be successful, and you have to give them each little milestone has to be celebrated, has to be acknowledged. It can't be quiet. You know, when we in our community, when our students graduate, there's a big deal. In high school or trade school or university, we make a celebration. We need to do other things to celebrate people's success, you know, to build up that confidence. And I think that's key. Others' support in the community is key to providing success.
Late winter, the kids are in school. It's a quiet but busy day for Constable Troy Julian, Eskasoni First Nation RCMP. He's thinking about paperwork and preparations for a court appearance later this week. He's also thinking about a kid who always seems to be in trouble. Little things. How can he reach this boy before it escalates into something bigger? But with 10 years as a Mountie, Troy knows that could all change. He could get a call to respond, and every call has the potential to be dangerous. Why would anybody put themselves in harm's way, policing on reserve?
I think the kids see that there's somebody that looks like me and they're wearing a police uniform. Maybe that's something I can do. Because when I grew up in my reserve in Millbrook, when the police were there, it was only for something bad. And I never saw a Native police officer for a long time. So that may have shaped my mind earlier on. Like eventually I did want to become a police officer, but that might have made my mind up a lot earlier.
What's this? Is this your project? Did you make these?
But today, so far it's a visit to Beverly Jador's primary class. No danger here, but important work just the same.
There's a few times I definitely could end up on the other side when I was younger. And it's actually police officers I dealt with then realized I wasn't a career criminal, and I was given a break, and after that I never looked back. Just finding some success in my life and just trying to build upon that and not being afraid to fail.
You guys are gonna have to teach me because I don't know how to sing it.
Everybody guys sing next to God. Ready?
This is the key to what it is all about, respect and connect. Having these kids grow up knowing the man. The police are not there to threaten, but to help and protect.
When the child sees a police officer in the past, all the children would be afraid because their parents would tell them, watch out, the cops are going to get you. You better put your seatbelt on, the cops are going to take you away. And these poor kids, they'd be scared of us. And well, we started coming to the schools, and we've been in the schools a lot. When we first started coming into schools, parents used to call the detachment and call the school and say, what's going on? I see the cops at the school, because it wasn't a normal thing. But now we made it a normal thing, and we're working in the schools all the time with the children.
This is not an easy role to play in the region's largest Mi'kmaq community. The detachment is busy. Last year, in a population of 3,800 residents, 500 people were taken into custody. Police recorded 2,400 responses ranging from criminal code violations to friendly community school visits. But policing on reserve is changing, for the better.
We have Native corporals and sergeants now, and actually the staff sergeant in my office, Dan Morrow, he's from Manitoba, he's a First Nations person. And it's just good to see that, you know, somebody, another sort of fellow Native person that's achieved so much.
Today, there are 27 Mi'kmaq-trained members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Mi'kmaq police in Mi'kmaq communities working on Mi'kmaq problems, finding Mi'kmaq solutions. Constable Julian gives an example of a Mi'kmaq solution.
Some kids are smashing up mailboxes and fences, and one of them just happened to be this elderly lady's fence and mailbox, and that was a really big deal to her. And we had a restorative justice circle, and she got to ask them why they did that to her, and they had to tell her why, and just the shame that they felt for what they did to this lady. A nice lady too, a nice old lady, and just seeing that, I felt like that reached them, rather than sitting through a court process where the legal jargon is over their heads and they're not really knowing what's going on, and they have lawyers talking for them and telling them not to say anything. This just seemed to reach them.
Troy thinks back to his youth, and it helps him understand what is happening today. His parents divorced, and he moved off reserve. That meant a white school.
When I moved off reserve, I went to a school where I was the only Native person there. I got called wagon burner, but I got in a few fights over that. But once I got on to junior high school, I still got called that and Bruce Lee and Chinese and every other name. When I was younger, I used to respond with violence, and then as I get older, I just considered who it was coming from and what, like most of those people all those people that said those things didn't mean anything to me. But I also had a friend of mine who he and his father hated Native people, and one day he told me, he says, I used to be like my father until I met you. And that's probably what helped change me, because dealing with that at school made me more self-reliant.
Modern police are expected to lay down the law, stop crime, to be social workers, and to know how to bring cases to court that allow prosecutors to get convictions. That all takes constant training and upgrading. Know the law and know your community.
I just think it all starts with the family first, the community, and usually when that fails, and then the police become involved. So it has to start with the family, the upbringing, the community support, education, and then, well, even now the police are getting more sort of less pro-charge and more trying to help people, like through restorative justice, and the courts are involved in that as well. They see somebody that's had a tough life, and there may be a way for them to move beyond that. Then they may institute some programs or referral to restorative justice or probation services.
But sometimes it is just plain ugly. One night in this detachment, for instance, there were so many suspects locked up, they tore the bars out of the walls in the jail and escaped. Tension and danger is always there.
Sometimes it's just really wild. You're doing everything. You're talking on the phone, going to calls, releasing prisoners, talking to kids, chasing people on the road. It can be anything. It can be stretched in so many different ways. On any given day, you just don't know what's going to happen.
For 34-year-old Constable Julian, police work is a calling. He's following in the footsteps of his great-grandfather, Chief Joseph Julian. In 1913, he was appointed provincial constable for all of Nova Scotia. He was a chief, a church deacon, respected elder, and a law enforcement constable most of his life. Troy sees his job as service to the community.
Well, there's been great strides since then. There's Aboriginal doctors in every sort of realm. Like I have a cousin, Mark Johnson, who's a doctor, and actually his brother's an RCMP officer. It's just things are changing. People are becoming more educated and furthering themselves. But I think my great-grandfather would be pleased to see the progress, and that in fact his great-grandson is a full constable.
Born on the Millbrook Reserve just outside Truro, Troy has a degree from Acadia University, a major in psychology and a minor in sociology. He was accepted at the RCMP Academy in Regina at the same time he passed his law entrance exams. He chose the force.
Well, my training was 28 weeks long. I started in May 10th, 1997, finished in September 22nd, 1997. I was the only Native person. There was a guy from Chile and a Indian from India. The rest were all non-Native. And I got along great with my troop mates, and my shooting wasn't the best when I started. But if you want help, they give you it, and I did remedial shooting, and after that I never looked back. But there is a lot of pressure though.
Hello. Some information on Family Violence Week. Would you like a magnet and some information?
I have to choose to enforce the law, because that's what I've chosen to do. I can't go back on my word. I signed up to enforce the law, and that's what I have to do regardless of who it is. Like, that includes family, family as well.
That ideal is often put to the test.
It has to do with everybody.
As in the spring of 1999, the Digby Mounties are short-handed. With Cherry Blossom Festival in Bear River, the detachment is stretched thin. It's also the exact time Native and non-Native tempers flared over Native fishing rights in Southwest Nova.
Tell them we're not going to be peaceful. This is it.
I get a call for downtown outside the local bar that there's a brawl of 20 to 30 people, and usually when you hear that, it's never anything like that. But when we went down there, when we went down there was just a big crowd of people in the middle of the street, and everybody was fighting. It was the Mi'kmaq fishermen against the locals, and all I could do was break up fights, and others would happen around me, and I would have one side Mi'kmaq saying, what are you doing? Who are you trying to help? And I would have the people that I would know from working in the community saying, do something. I said, I am doing something. I'm trying to break up these fights. It was just, every time I went to one fight, two more would break up, or erupt behind me. And it was just it's an exciting position to be in, that's for sure.
Settling down that incident helped bring quiet and reason to the area, and eventually led to both sides sitting down and reaching common ground.
If this isn't the right way, there's ways we can deal with this.
Constable Troy Julian is a valued officer, trained, experienced, and trusted. He has great hopes for the future, but simple goals for himself.
That I live long enough to retire, that it'll get into some, like, I don't end up in an accident or at some unfortunate event with domestic violence or any sort of other. But that's what I trained for, and I signed up with that possibility. So if that happens, if that occurs, then I will have been proud to have lived up until that time. Eskasoni Detachment, it's a great place to work. Never had a public complaint against me, but I just believe in treating people well with respect, and usually they give it right back. Just let my work speak for itself.
Troy Julian brings his past and his culture to his police work, and that's a good thing.
I think the communities that had this gentleman as a police officer were very fortunate because this man understood the context of what was happening in that community. Say, if you come from ordinary Canada to a reserve, all your biases and things in your own baggage you bring in and you impose your law and order on the community won't accept you because you are imposing your thoughts on them. But if you're somebody of their own culture, of their own race, then it's a bridge for you to act as from the community to the non-native community. You're the bridge. You're the one that has to walk in the middle. You're the one that has to understand the context of what this incident is or this situation is. So that is helpful. That will help diffuse a lot of situations. And so by traveling in both worlds, he's able to bring them together.
Right left.
And our recorder from the Civil Liberty Club, Bridget Stevens.
Fight night in Halifax. Bridget Stevens, a quick, determined fighter from Eskasoni. A lot of heart and a lot to learn.
I just love it. I love every single thing about it. I love the hard work. I love feeling dizzy and knowing I have to keep on working and not quit. That's what I like about boxing.
You're looking really good, right? I want right hand, hook, right hand, all day.
This is a tough fight. Her opponent, Felicia O'Connell, is an Olympic contender. Bridget is happy just to be in this ring, win, lose, or draw. She's accomplished so much just getting here. It was rough growing up.
Who's that girl? I want to see her again. Listen, so right, left, all day.
Well, fighting, it's common. It's everybody. You'll hear about a fight every day. You'll see a fight, and it was nothing. You see it every single. So I really had to learn how to fight in order to be able to protect myself. I used violence to stop violence. I've been around it so much it was normal. It's normal having a bucket and a mop, mopping up blood, like bringing it out, and it was absolutely normal, not traumatized or... So I used my fists to be able to get out.
And that's not the half of it. Bridget has dyslexia, a learning disability that is not an intellectual disability. It occurs at all levels of intelligence. She started to self-medicate to dull her anxieties, a lot of alcohol, and at age 10 she started to sniff gas regularly. The peer pressure, a lot of violence and hopelessness. As the anger built, so did the violence, and as the gas clouded her head, fear and doubt took over.
When I was 10 years old, I started sniffing actually, and it was really my brain. There was really nothing wrong with it. I just did it as everybody else was doing it. And when I quit, my brain, my everything wasn't normal anymore because I did it for like 2 years.
Deeper and deeper into self-medication and self-abuse, searching for things to relieve the pressure, anything.
I used to cut myself because when I used to cut myself, I used to feel the pain from, I wouldn't want to kill myself. It's just when you cut yourself, the pain eliminates the things that are going through your brain. And now I got boxing, and all that pain and all that hard work gets my fix.
One day, just fooling around in a gym with nothing else to do, enter Jim Maloney. As a fitness coach and 9th degree black belt martial arts master, Jim saw something in the lost teen. They struck a deal.
Jim told me, okay, only tuition for our people is no drinking. I fell down a couple times. I told him, and I thought he wasn't going to forgive me. And that's the first time I told my mother, oh my God, Mom, I drank last night. Oh no, Jim's going to find out. Jim's not going to train me anymore. I was so devastated.
The atmosphere around Bridget's very contagious. She's very high energy. She's very into what she wants to do, and that's what initially drew me into the whole concept.
During my training, I had to wear my jeans. So Jim came by, and he brought me a bag of sweat clothes that he bought just so that I'll have for training. I couldn't believe it. I went home. I kept on looking at the prices. I was so surprised. I took a calculator and I kept on adding them up, and it was more than $150 it was. And I couldn't believe that's more than my welfare. Oh my God, I was so excited. I took all the clothes, I laid them out on the bed. I put my hands up and I laid on them. I was so excited. I said, I'm gonna train my heart out. I need this life.
Bridget Stevens suddenly found her passion, something to live for, something she cared for more than booze, boxing, and training showed her the way out.
I had no hope. I had nothing. I thought I was just going to be drinking for the rest of my life. I never thought that I would be living in Halifax. I never thought I'd be boxing. I never knew, well, my life was over. I thought I was just going to have kids, maybe get a home from the band office, and be on welfare for the rest of my life. That was my dream, I guess, because I didn't have no dreams, actually, you could say. I never knew that there was more options to life.
Well, basically, Bridget's got a very old mind. She's a very mature person. She's experienced lots of different things in her life, and where most people are just starting to get into drugs and alcohol at 21. When I met her, she was quitting alcohol and drugs and going to the bars.
It's a cold winter day 4 kilometers from her warm Halifax apartment, and Bridget is at the start of a daily routine. Run 6K along the waterfront and up the hill, a good healthy lunch of vegetables, and off to the gym for 3 grueling hours of training, exercise, punching the heavy bag, shadowboxing, and sparring.
My boxing plan is to become professional, about a year or 2. If I don't get there, I can't be too hard on myself because I'm really happy for what I accomplished. Accomplished that now I'm able to have confidence just to go to talk to people. I'm not scared of anything anymore. Now I'm in the ring and I'm like, oh, I can't believe that I'm in the ring, just able to have that confidence with myself and love who I am. That's my biggest accomplishment.
Bridget Stevens is a work in progress. Every day she gets stronger and more skilled as a fighter, and every day she gets farther away from her teenage life.
What she wants more than anything in the world is to be a boxer. She wants to be a boxer. She wants to be recognized as somebody, and she has to. She wants that bad. She really and truly wants to be somebody in the ring.
Tom McCluskey has been around the fight game in Nova Scotia his whole life. At 83, he had to be convinced to come out of retirement to work with Bridget.
She wants to get in the ring and put on a good show, and that's what she can shoot for that, because that's her goal.
The left hook, yeah. Do the same on the other side.
I think that boxing is only been a tool to show her what she can accomplish on her own. And boxing is a very lonely sport. I mean, we've got a lot of, so she's got people around her, and I support her unconditionally, but she's the person that's got to run up the hill. You can always tell the people that don't run, that walk around the hill. She runs up that hill, right? She trains hard, and she wants to get to where she's going.
Well, my success is that my sobriety, that is my biggest success. It is. I'm sober. I have my happiness. I'm fulfilled. I got love. I got all the things around me that's perfect to fulfill my dream.
She's a person that's trying to get through life the best way she knows how, and she wants to do this, and it won't be the first time that some girl went into sports of some kind and came out with a good reputation, or came out with a good outlook ahead of herself, and she's respected. That's good. That's better than going around the street drunk or using dope or something like that there. So I don't mind coming up here with Jimmy, because Jimmy's a straight guy, and he appreciates me coming up here, and I'll do what I possibly can to get her that she's going to be a top-notch fighter and get fights in Vegas and stuff like that. Then she can be getting in the limelight where people know who she is, right? That's what she wants. She wants that more than anything.
It's a very emotional, compassionate thing for me, because I love her. I love who she is, and I love her mind, and I love her spirit, her soul. And it's a very emotional thing for me, and I certainly don't see her in any way failing at this point. She's already made it. Now it's just to depend on how other people assess her winnings. If she becomes the champion of the world, other people will recognize that, but to her, hey, she's already a champion.
Imagine the journey this woman is on. Once frightened to leave the house, she now steps into a ring in front of screaming boxing fans, and she is giving back her wisdom and experience.
My name is Bridget Stevens, and I'm from Eskasoni First Nation.
A group of troubled Inuit kids have come south for a conference focused on instilling hope in their lives, and it is Bridget who is asked to be their inspiration.
The community I come from is the largest community, Mi'kmaq community, and everybody speaks in Mi'kmaq. So when I was about 10, 11 years old, I was taken into a rehab because I was gas sniffing, very young age. And everybody would say, don't be hanging around with that girl. Her parents are good. Why is she like that? Why is she gas sniffing? I'd never wear jeans. And I would never wear shorts because all of my legs were all cut. I would cut myself because my mind was always going and going and going. And so the only way that I would stop my brain from stopping is if I would cut myself and I'd feel that pain. And that was very hard. That was very, very hard. And still my parents, even still to this day, my parents don't know that I used to cut myself. And people usually look at people who cut themselves as wanting to kill themselves. But it's just to stop the pain from your brain. Now that I just changed my life in a few years, my community is a very good support. I would just love to tell you guys, in order for us to stop violence, let's stop the violence from ourselves by not hurting our bodies with substance abuses. I know you guys are gonna go home and you guys are gonna have new clothes, maybe new haircut, but every time when you guys go home, everything's gonna be the same. Your friends are going to be still drinking. Your friends are still going to be doing drugs. And I just want you guys to remember that if you guys just try not to drink, try not to follow your friends, and do what you love to do, You'll be somebody. Like my parents, they didn't drink. They're somebodies. I hope you guys just take this home and just please think about the gas sniffing, the drinking, and go to school. It's very important. And thank you.
Tonight, Bridget Stevens lost a close one. But there will be more fights, and this beautiful woman is on her way. But winning isn't the thing. It's making the right life or death decisions. And Bridget Stevens chose life.
No matter how much people put you down, no matter how much people tell you, no, you can't do that, you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you don't have it. Keep going at it. Doesn't matter what anybody said, do what you love to do, and you'll accomplish everything.
Bridget brings her message of hope to all Aboriginal youth, and in turn, her message will ignite the dreams of others.
This is perseverance. This is survival. This is something that she took a negative and transformed that negative into a complete opposite, which is a positive, which allowed her to survive. Her message is about survival, about perseverance, about hard work, about coming back from being the underdog, being a Native woman, with issues that confront Native women, but she rode above it all. She is a role model. She is a fighter in every sense. And she's a fighter with her hands, but she's a fighter with her mind. And that's what's really beautiful about her, is that she has the ability to move forward and to think way faster than anybody else can, because to be in a situation where you have to use your wits. Can you imagine how much more faster she is in her mind if she is with her hands? So this is a tremendous person that's really a positive outcome for our community. We need more like Bridget.
Across Canada, Aboriginal youth are the fastest growing segment of our population.
Oh, she's cute. Look at her.
Lindsay Marshall suggests these youth are an idling engine. That engine could rev up and crash, or slide into drive and contribute to the well-being of us all. There is so much potential. We must engage and support them.
These people that are profiled are just like you and me. You have to look at people, other people. You don't have to do the same thing as a Bridget, as a Troy, as a Jesse or a Chad, but you have to find what you find unique and special and wonderful, and it's there for you. All you have to do is look at the ways and means for you to do this.
We are called the Mi'kmaq people, we all love this land. We were put here to protect her and lend a helping hand. We are keepers of the forest, watchers of the sea. We live alongside with nature in perfect harmony. We call upon each one of you for a little more understanding. Together we can win the battle, alone we have no chance. We must pull together, all red, white, black and yellow, all peoples and all nations, all around the world. We call upon each one of you for a little more understanding. Together we can win the battle, alone we have no chance. We must pull together.